be serious!
Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
He's one of those guys who will get penetration. Good genes. He has great genes.
And I want everybody out there on TV to know it. I am the greatest.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the show. I'm your host, Blake Ruffino, and this is Are You Serious? In today's show, I finally get to talk about some baseball. Opening day starts this Friday, and it feels like the season just ended, but it's back again, and I'm not complaining. I am so ready for some baseball, and I'm definitely ready to talk with you guys about some baseball. In today's show, I'm going to be diving into southeastern Louisiana, and also, I got to talk about those LSU Tigers as well. I'm going to be telling you what not to just expect this season, but what you can also expect for the entire season with both squads moving forward. Those LSU Tigers are going to be hosting Notre Dame this weekend in a weekend series, and also southeastern Louisiana is going to be taking on Southern Illinois, and that is going to be that's shaping up for some really good series for both those teams for the opening weekend. But before I dive into that, don't forget to like my Facebook page at Are You Serious Sports. You can follow me on Twitter at AY55PORTS. That's AY55PORTS. Or you can also follow me on Instagram, all lowercase, Are You Serious Sports. And don't forget to like and subscribe here on my YouTube page for all my latest videos as well. All right, guys, as I told you, I'm going to be talking about some southeastern Louisiana baseball. I'm pumped up. This team's loaded. I mean, look, guys, this team is stacked, and this is why. I'm just going to break down southeastern Louisiana for you guys. Now, if some of you don't know, Matt Reiser is the head baseball coach at Southeastern, and he was an assistant coach for Southeastern under now athletic director J.R. Tees, and when J.R. Tees took the athletic director's position, Matt Reiser was bumped up, I guess you could say, and took the job and has done a fantastic job in his tenure. Now, Reiser's in his fifth year, and this year they're projected to finish second in the Southland Conference behind Sam Houston State, but I don't really buy into all of the preseason hype and preseason rankings. It just never really pans out that way unless you have a really elite squad. But in the last 5 years, Matt Reiser has gone to 3 regionals with all of his teams, and the Southland Conference just in general has really started to progress in college baseball. If you remember last season, Southeastern Louisiana did make it to a regional, but they didn't win the Southland tournament, as McNeese State took that tournament but didn't even get into the postseason, which I thought was absolutely ridiculous. But nevertheless, the 3 teams in Southland Conference could definitely make a push for this postseason with Sam Houston, McNeese, and Southeastern. And Southeastern and Sam Houston State really have a tough non-conference schedule this season. Sam Houston State may have the toughest non-conference schedule maybe in the nation, and Southeastern is definitely not going to be too far behind them there. And what could really be a clash of the Titans in the Southland Conference between Sam Houston State and Southeastern. But something that I kind of want to touch into before I break the team down, something that I'm really excited and glad to see what had happened was Matt Reiser just this past season got a lot of attention from a lot of big-time schools, and Southeastern did everything they had to do to keep Matt Reiser at Southeastern. So good on them, especially, and I know you guys will get on to me about this, especially when I've been a little critical about the administration when it comes to football. But when it comes to baseball, I'm never going to get on to them. They have gone full out for baseball, especially since Matt Reiser's been there, especially since J.R. Tees has been the athletic director. And you can't really expect too much less than J.R. Tees to go all out for Southeastern Louisiana, especially for baseball. But I am glad that they were able to work a deal out with Reiser to keep him there, because he is a young, energetic coach who's done really, really well, obviously, with getting to 3 regionals. Now, he hasn't been able to get past LSU, but you can only get there so many times before you start having great success in that regional tournament. And if you remember last season, Sam Houston State got all the way to the Super Regionals, did get beat, but that was they were the first Southland Conference team to do so. As I mentioned to you earlier, Southeastern's look. This Lions team is loaded, man. I don't remember a better squad coming back than the one that the Lions have this year and that Riser has put together for this season. And it all starts with some of their returning starters and Southland Conference Player of the Year, Taylor Schwarner, who last season absolutely raked. And he's a really good defender at third base. Last season, Taylor had 211 at-bats with 70 hits, 15 doubles, 16 home runs, and led the Southland Conference with 72 RBIs. Now, not only did he lead the Southland Conference in RBIs, but it was the second most RBIs put up in a season behind MLB All-Star Paul Goldschmidt, who plays for the Diamondbacks and has been an All-Star, I think, maybe now for 4 or 5 years. And that's something to be said with putting up those big numbers. Now, Taylor is a very patient hitter. If you've seen him play, he had 43 walks last season, had an on-base percentage at .453, which is absolutely amazing. And Southeastern is not just returning Taylor, but also Drew Avens is going to be back. And last year he did really well, or really good as well last season at 215 at bats, 67 hits, 14 doubles, 4 home runs, and 32 RBIs, and also had about a .450 on base percentage as well. And it stole 29 bases. Look, if you guys have not seen Southeastern play, they're going to do one of two things. Either they're going to hit for power, or they're going to get on base and steal on you, or they're going to do both. So really 3 things. And Riser is aggressive. He's going to come at you, and he's going to go full throttle, and he's going to try to put his foot on your throat and just make you make errors. And it's been really successful for him. But although that Riser has had really good guys hitting and really good defensive guys and guys who have gone on to get drafted, I think that over the past couple of seasons, either Riser had some really good pitching depth and not a lot of hitting, or had a lot of hitting and didn't have a lot of pitching depth. But this year, I think that Southeastern has both. Josh Green, who is a senior, who was a little injured last season. Coach Riser in a press conference last week talked about Josh Green probably having the best stuff on this squad. And that is exactly what Southeastern needs, especially with depth, if Green is to be in that weekend rotation. But Corey Giacone, likely to be in that weekend rotation as well. He's probably going to get that Friday nod for the Lions. And when you have 2 guys that are really, really good in your weekend rotation, it's going to be hard to beat. It's going to be hard to take 2 out of 3 in a weekend series when you have those 2 guys going after it. But to me, what is the most intriguing thing about Southeastern is not only are they deep pitching-wise and have a lot of talent on the field, but what they did in replacing some of the key pieces that they are going to have to replace this season. Matt Riser went out and got a couple of JUCO guys, and some of you LSU fans will remember Ryan Shemp, and his little brother is at Southeastern. The dude's, if I'm not mistaken, 6'2", 210, 215, and can really, really hit the ball. I expect him to get a lot of at-bats this season. I would see him maybe even playing first, but I don't know what Riser's going to do with him. But I definitely would see him getting some at-bats. We know Southeastern, like I mentioned just a second ago, is going to put a lot of pressure on you. But when you have a team that's really top to bottom, has a lot of experience, not just at Southeastern, but at the JUCO level, I don't know if Riser's going to put that much pressure, or really does he need to. But it's going to be interesting to see how this team progresses over the season. This weekend, I expect they could definitely go 2-1 against Southern Illinois. But the key is going to be, can this team stay healthy? Can they find some key pieces from some younger guys? And can the returning guys duplicate what they did last season and get even better? But like I said, I think that Southeastern's poised to make another deep run. And look, You guys know by now how much I love LSU. But Southeastern is a team to really watch out for again this season. They're going to be able to put the pressure on you, and they're going to be playing at Southeastern in February. I'm going to be there. There's no question in my mind that I'm going to be there. So when those two teams go head-to-head, it's going to tell a lot about both of these squads. So I'm going to be front and center in Hammond, Louisiana, watching that game. All right, guys, let's dive into some LSU baseball. But before I do get into all that, as I mentioned to you in the beginning of the show, don't forget to like my Facebook page, follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and you can catch that all down in the description below. And don't forget to like and subscribe here on my YouTube page for all my latest videos as well. Talking about some LSU baseball, man, where do you start? We all know the heartbreaker last season when LSU lost to Florida in the championship, and it was really a tough pill to swallow. Losing Eric Walker, not having that third guy that you could really use after he got injured last year, and not just that, he's not going to be back again this season in that rotation, which would really help if you could go with Caleb Gilbert, Zach Hess, who I'm going to be talking about this weekend the weekend rotation. But if Eric Walker would have been in that weekend rotation, you could have had really been locked in to what you would want to be doing in these weekend series. But I'm going to come back to pitching. I think that in a minute, I think that that's something that you can get more in depth about. But just talking about LSU, let's just start with this lineup. Look, this lineup may even be better than last season, and I know that sounds crazy. But you got Josh Smith, who Paul Maneri said is going to be moving over to short. He's going to be batting leadoff if it were to start today. Zach Watson, or Smash Watson, rather, is going to be playing center field again. Antoine Duplantis, who when Maneri talked about a couple weeks ago that Duplantis is going to be back in that third spot, I was kind of iffy about that. But apparently, Antoine has had an exceptional offseason and has put on some weight and has definitely put on some power per Paul Maneri. Hunter Fedusha, who is going to be catching this season, he has an injury. I don't know really to expect when he's going to be back healthy, fully healthy. That's going to be something to watch out this weekend and this weekend series against Notre Dame. But Nick Coombs, I expect to get in that role and replace Fedusha. And that's a pretty big blow because Fedusha, per Paul Maneri, had a fantastic offseason, and obviously so if he's going to be batting in that fourth spot or that cleanup spot for the Tigers. But I still feel confident in Nick Coombs. I don't know if he'd bat cleanup, but if he doesn't, I definitely expect Daniel Cabrera, who out of Parkview Baptist, who is a freshman this year, who's been getting a lot of praise and a lot of hype. And let's really just stop there for a second, because if you have not seen Daniel Cabrera play, you better tune in this weekend. This kid maybe has the purest left-handed swing I've ever seen. You know how that Ken Griffey Jr. had just had such a pure swing. He has that same type of swing just when you watch him. The ball really does, and just watching him, not at LSU, but even at Parkview, the ball just sounds different when it comes off his bat than it does everybody else. And if this kid potentially lives up to the hype, LSU has a steal, and he's going to be playing left field for the Tigers. But not only can Daniel Cabrera hit and play in the outfield, but he can pitch as well. He's going to be around 84, 85, maybe even more. I think someone said that he was around the 88 mark and could come out of left field and give you a couple of solid innings. So that would be key if you have a legit left-handed arm. But I just don't know how you would necessarily not just keep him in left field unless you absolutely need him to throw for you and give you a couple innings, because that's not his biggest strength. But Cabrera can smash, and he's going to get some national attention very, very quickly. In that fifth or seventh spot, Maneri said that Bryce Jordan, who was injured all of last season, is going to be starting at first. And Jake Slaughter, who had an up-and-down season last year at first, is going to be now moving over to third. Slaughter, per reports, has put on at least 20 to 25 pounds and has really come into his own. If you know anything about Jake, he came from a smaller school, and I just think that last year was just a bit much for him. But I think that defensively and hitting-wise, he's going to probably make the biggest strides. I just hope that he can kind of take a step back and be a little bit more calm this year and just let the game come to him. And you saw when he connects with it, it's going to go. It's going to ride. So DHing, this is where I think Pulmonary is going to have to make his money here, because he talked a lot about Bo Jordan and Bo being in that spot. But, man, I understand that Bo had a great series, had a great run for you in Omaha. But Nick Webb is a freshman from Turlings Catholic who not just this fall but this spring has been stroking the ball, who has been hitting the ball to all fields, who's been hitting it off, hitting it everywhere, putting the ball in play. No one has been able to get this kid out from LSU. I don't expect Bo Jordan to be in that DH role for long. Nick Webb is just someone to keep your eye out for. I expect him to get a lot of at-bats this weekend if he doesn't see the field some in the outfield. But who are you going to start him over? You're not going to start him over Watson. You're not going to start him over Duplantis, and you're definitely not going to start him over Cabrera. I just don't know where this kid's going to get a lot of playing time in the field, so which leads me to believe that he's going to take Bo Jordan's spot in that DH role, and it's going to come quicker than not. So Nick Webb out of Turlings Catholic. I know that Cabrera's getting a lot of praise. Don't sleep on this Webb kid. I'm serious. Also has a pure left-handed swing. So if he's not in that starting lineup at least in a couple weeks, it's either going to be one of two things. Either Bo Jordan is really hitting the ball and getting on base, or Webb is just really in a slump. So at second base, it's going to be Brant Broussard who's going to get the nod, but Hal Hughes, who's a freshman, is definitely a better defensive guy. But I think that Broussard just overall is better right now, but Hal is going to be able to really play a lot of key roles in playing third or second, depending on what Maneri does. Hal Hughes defensively is going to be look, I'll just say this. He has one of the better gloves I've ever seen, and so I'm looking forward to Hal getting some playing time, especially in the field, and hopefully his swing will come with it, and he'll get a lot of experience there. Now, going through that lineup, look, you have so many great hitters on this LSU team. You have hitters for days. I don't know really where a hole is when you're talking about this lineup, because everyone in this lineup can swing the stick. There is not a hole other than maybe Brant Broussard at 9 or Hal Hughes if he's there. But, man, there's not an out to get, okay, because every one of those guys can stroke. But as baseball often will do to you, it's all going to come down to pitching. Caleb Gilbert, and I've seen him throw, but Caleb, this offseason, Caleb's had a fantastic offseason. He's had a fantastic spring coming back, but he's definitely going to be your Friday night starter. But other than that, when it comes to starting pitching, who do you really have in that weekend rotation? Now, everyone's going to talk about the wild thing, Zach Hess, and he's going to get the nod Saturday for sure, at least coming up on this weekend. Is he going to be able to make that transition from the closing position and being a relief pitcher and coming into that starting role? Look, I fully believe he will. Nothing indicates to me that Zach Hess isn't prepared for the starting role. What does bother me, not the mechanics, not anything, but the only thing that worries me about Zach Hess is possibly just how intense he can be. They're going to have to calm him down. He can't go in there throwing the ball 97 every pitch. He's going to have to give you a lot of innings. So I fully expect Zach Hess to have a great season no matter what he does. If he's a starting pitcher, if he has to go back and close some games for you, whatever he's going to do, I think he's going to have success. But a really good friend of mine and someone I trust a lot when it comes to sports, Stephen Miller, made a great point to me the other day. And I think it was even yesterday. And he said, look, I know what LSU is going to give you Friday and Saturday. But Sunday, who in the hell knows what is going to go on? Who's going to start? Because you don't know at this point. And I agree with Miller 100%. Maneri has made a lot of references into Cam Sanders and Matt Beck as a possible third guy that can go for you on Sunday. Now, Matt Beck, I think, is going to be in a relief role. But Cam Sanders, if he could come in and start for you, LSU really just needs someone to come into that third role or even that second role behind Zach Hess where you don't have to put so much stress on him to be so dominant as a starting pitcher. But the biggest thing that you're going to need is relief pitching. And look, I'm not the guy that's so worried like everyone else is about, the lack of experience and the lack of maybe even talent that you have in that relief role. But just look at those guys that's on that roster and the talent that they have in those relief role positions. I mean, Ma'Khil Hilliard, who's a freshman out of Central High, is someone that I really do expect, and just talking to some people at LSU, is going to get that first nod in closing a game. And it could come Friday night. I fully expect, just looking at that roster, that LSU is going to be fine. But where people are more okay with the weekend rotation, I'm really not. I'm a little bit more worried about that than I am this relieving pitching role. Who's going to close out, because I think you still have a whole lot of talent there. Ma'Khil can throw strikes. He's going to come in and throw strikes, and he's going to pound the strike zone. And you have other guys who've shown that they can pound the strike zone as well, either it be JUCO or some freshman guys that you could even have saw last year. But I think one or two things is going to happen with this squad. Either they're extremely underrated right now, and they're going to really dominate, or you're going to struggle, and you're going to have to find someone who can take over for Zach Hess in that weekend rotation, so you can move Zach Hess back to where he probably belongs in that relieving role, in that closing position, or that closing spot. So this weekend is big for LSU and what it is that they need and want to do. So I've never been more excited for a team, because when you have that much talent and you're one or two pitchers away of just seeing what they can do, this team has the potential to be just as good, if not better, than they were last season. So, all right, guys, it was great finally talking about some baseball. So we'll catch you guys again soon. Don't forget again to like my Facebook page at RU Serious Sports, Twitter AY55PRTS, Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe here for all my latest videos as well. You guys have a great Mardi Gras, and we'll see you again soon. Peace out.